I realized that I thought I was playing the wrong game, but that really I was just playing the game wrong. The scoreboard was the problem.
I'm Patrice Washington, and this is the Redefining Wealth podcast, where authenticity leads to alignment and abundance. Join us each week as we peel back the layers on what wealth truly means and dive into conversations that inspire, connect, and empower you to live your richest life. Get ready to challenge the status quo. It's time to redefine wealth for yourself. You're listening to the Redefining Wealth podcast with Patrice Washington, and I am so excited to be back for yet another episode. You already know this community believes that wealth is so much more than just simply money and material possessions. That's the high level definition. But the original 12th century definition of wealth says it's all about well-being and happiness. And I am so excited about today's interview because it's very rare that I find someone that I feel so fully aligned with. I know, Purpose Chasers, you're going to get so much out of this episode. It will blow your mind. I know we're going to read this for our book club selection for February in the Redefining Wealth app community, but wait until you hear him. I feel like Sahil Bloom is my cousin, my brother from another mother type of vibe. Oh my gosh. So let me tell you just a bit about him. Sahil Bloom is an inspirational writer and content creator, captivating millions of people every week through his insights and biweekly newsletter, The Curiosity Chronicle, which I do subscribe to. I've been a reader for well over a year or two now. Bloom is a successful entrepreneur, the owner of SRB Holdings, the managing partner of SRB Ventures, an early stage investment fund. Listen, and he is the author of the book that just released this week, The 5 Types of Wealth. It is absolutely incredible. After you hear the affirmation of the week, the next thing you'll hear is my conversation with Sahil Bloom. This week's affirmation is, I am designing my dream life. The life I desire is multifaceted, and I recognize that it will not happen living by default. The true wealth in my vision flows from a balanced blend of time, social connections, mental clarity, physical vitality, and financial freedom. And I embrace every facet of it as an important part of my journey. I choose to break free from living on autopilot and reclaim my power to design a life that lights up every part of my soul. Each day, I honor my time by focusing on what truly matters, nurturing deep and uplifting relationships, making sure my mind and body are treated with love and care, and intentionally building financial abundance. I believe I have the power to create my dream life where every aspect of wealth aligns harmoniously and guides me toward a legacy of peace, joy, abundance, and wealth in all areas. Declare with me today, I am designing my dream life. Welcome to the Redefining Wealth podcast, Sahil.
I'm so happy to be here. And it is exactly as you said. I feel like you and I have this like weird energy alignment where we've been living in two different worlds. And now this is our first chance to come together. And I hope that this is the first of many opportunities we have.
Oh, I hope so too. I saw, because I am a fan of your newsletter, I saw recently that you just turned 34. Now, I'm going to invert that. I'm 43. So I was like, do I need to write 44 lessons for my upcoming birthday? Your newsletter is such a blessing. Oh my gosh. The amount of study that you have done with all the concepts, with all the research, take us back to why. Was it what I read in the beginning of the book here, like that really inspired you to even start the newsletter, or did you have it before that?
So I come from a very like storytelling forward family. I'm half Indian. So my mom grew up born and raised in India. She and my grandmother, her mother, are the most incredible storytellers. My grandmother, I think in another life would have been like a famous actress or something, was just like this vibrant, amazing personality. Unfortunately, she passed a year ago. But that lineage, I think, of storytelling and of trying to distill complex ideas into something that people can take and run with in their life has been something that I have always felt strongly about. I know we'll talk about it, but like on my own life journey, I felt like the early years of my life and career were spent playing someone else's game and walking down someone else's path. At some point, I realized that it was time to carve my own and play my own game, play the game that I wanted to play and the game that I feel like I am uniquely qualified to win. That is the journey that I've been on for the last 3 or 4 years. And the newsletter has been a huge part of that, sharing those ideas, seeing the people out there, taking those ideas and running with them and living hopefully slightly better lives. And now, I think the book is going to be a big part of that as well.
Oh, it's going to be a huge part. I have to tell you, I know I tagged you on Instagram not too long ago, but in preparation for the interview, when I finally got my physical copy, I started to really go through and I was reading just the introduction. And man, your gift for storytelling, shout out to your mom and to your grandmother's legacy. I was in tears just during the introduction, during the prologue. And I have never read a book and felt so moved instantly. And it was how you described talking to your friend over dinner, I believe, and that catch up. And you described how when we greet people, how we wear busyness as a badge of honor. So when you're like, hey, what you been up to? Busy, and everyone's so excited to say how busy they are. But can you take us to that conversation?
Yeah. And it helps to know the very quick context, which is I had spent the first 7 years of my career really focused, hyper focused on money being my path to the good life. I had convinced myself that the only thing between me and a life of happiness and fulfillment and stress-free living was making more money. And every time I got to like that number that I thought was the number where that was going to happen, it would be like this mirage and sort of just disappear and go off into the distance. And unfortunately, along the way, that narrow focus meant that so many other areas of my life had started to suffer. I was making more and more money. I was winning that one game, but losing everything else. My relationships with my parents, basically non-existent. We were living 3,000 miles away. I was never seeing them. They had started to get older and it was showing. My relationship with my sister had ground to a halt. My relationship with my wife, who is the most important person in the world to me, had been strained by the fact that we were struggling to conceive at the time. And I wasn't mentally or physically present enough with her during that time. My health, I was drinking 7 nights a week, physically and mentally, I was deteriorating. So all of these other areas of my life were suffering right at the point when from the outside looking in, you would have said I was winning the game. I was doing the things that like society and culture tells you are winning, are success. And I went out for a drink with this friend and we sat down and he asked me how I was doing. And I told him that it had started to get hard being so far away from my parents, that they had started to show chinks in the armor. They were getting older. They were mortal, slowing down. And he asked, how old are they? And I said, they're in their mid-60s. And he said, how often do you see them? And I said, maybe once a year. And he looked at me and just said, okay, so you're going to see your parents 15 more times before they die. And I remember feeling like I had been punched in the gut. I mean, the idea that the amount of time, the amount of moments you have left with the people you care about most is so finite, so countable that you can put it onto a few hands was jarring. It shook me to my core. And I realized in that moment that something had to change, that the way I had been defining and measuring my life was wrong, that I needed to change the narrative. And the next day, my wife and I had a very candid conversation about what we wanted, and we made a big change. And within 45 days, I had left my job. We had sold our house in California and moved across the country to live closer to our parents. And that decision was the start of this entire journey that has culminated in this book. The decision to prioritize the games we wanted to play, to build our life around the things that we cared about, not what society told us we should care about. That has been the journey that we've been on.
It was the So you're going to see your parents 15 more times. For me, just the week before I read that, I had a trip scheduled to go to speak in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm from California. And I thought, why would I just spend the whole time in Phoenix? I could cut some of that short, just do my 2 speaking engagements and then go to California and see my mom. Because I made a commitment this year to see my mom at least 4 or 5 times, not once or twice, which is what had been happening. So by the time I read what you shared, and my mom is in her mid 70s, I mean, I broke. I sat at my kitchen counter and I just felt so aligned and like this was perfect timing, even for me, who I've already been someone who felt like I was prioritizing the right relationships and all those things. And I talked to my mom every day, but I had not prioritized putting my eyes on her as often. And wow, from the introduction, you had me. So that was completely aligned and it changed your life. I love that though. What happened? How quickly after you moved did you guys conceive your little boy?
I mean, I still get chills thinking about this. We made that big change. That was May of 2021. And within 2 weeks of getting into our new place on the East Coast, we found out that my wife was pregnant naturally. And I'm not a particularly religious person. I'm spiritual, but that was one of those moments in life when you just feel like God winked at you. When the things come into alignment, everything falls into place as it should. Like you're on the right path. It's that whisper that you're doing the right thing, you're on the right path. And that was transformative for both of us. His arrival and the path that we've been on as parents and this whole journey, I really feel like that was such a key sign of you're on the right way.
Yeah. So you realized, Sahil, that you were, I would say, did you call it playing the wrong game?
Yeah. So I said that I realized that I thought I was playing the wrong game, but that really I was just playing the game wrong. And what I mean by that is the scoreboard was the problem. It wasn't that I was doing all the wrong things. It was that the way I was measuring my life was wrong. And the reason that's important is, I go back to this quote. Peter Drucker, this famous management theorist, said, "What gets measured gets managed." And the whole idea is that the thing that you can measure ends up being the thing that you focus on. It's the thing that you narrowly hone in and optimize around. And because our scoreboard, the way that we measure ourselves as a human has historically just been money, it becomes the thing that commands all of our attention. All of your headspace and bandwidth, cognitive bandwidth, goes towards this one thing. And you bend and pull at every other area of your life to massage that one thing that you can measure. But unfortunately, that scoreboard is broken. It is not conducive to what you are actually trying to do, the game you are trying to win, which is the game of happiness, of fulfillment, of joy, of experience. Those are the things that really matter. And while money is a part of getting to that end, it is not nothing. It simply can't be the only thing. The scoreboard needs to be redefined. It includes money, as I say in the 5 types of wealth. It's one of the types of wealth, but it is not the entirety of that scoreboard. We need a way to measure these other areas of life so that we can take actions against those things.
What I love too about the book is that you help us do a wealth score. So we get to score ourselves in each one of your 5 types of wealth. So, and I did do mine. I'm going to reveal my answers in my private community, but I did do my wealth score. I thought it was brilliant, but let's go through the 5 types of wealth. So let's start with time wealth. Tell us what we need to know.
So time wealth is all about the ability to choose who you spend your time with, how you spend it, what you spend it on, where you spend it. It's all about control over your time and priorities. Time wealth to me fundamentally starts with an awareness of the fact that time is finite and impermanent. It's an awareness of that terrifying fact that you have 15 more times before your parents are gone. It's an awareness of the fact that you may only see your best friends for that annual trip a few more times. It's an awareness of the fact that your kid is not going to be 5 years old for very long. It's an awareness of the fact that if you don't prioritize your relationships now, they won't be there for you later. That awareness is the call to action. That awareness is what sparks you to actually go and start living differently once you become truly aware of just how valuable your time is. And so I go ask people, I ask young people all the time, because what happens, by the way, is when you're young, you don't think about time at all. You think you're immortal. You see yourself and you're like, well, no, yeah, those people are old, but I'm not going to get old. I'm a young person. Look at me, like I'm young, right? You see the pictures of old people when they were young, but you don't internalize the fact that you are that young person and you will one day be old. You think about time zero, and then at the end of your life, it becomes the only thing you think about, right when it's too late. And so what I ask people is, would you trade lives with Warren Buffett? He is worth $130 billion. He has access to anyone in the world. He travels around on private jets, mansions, all of these things. But you wouldn't trade lives with him because he's 95 years old. There is no way you would trade the amount of time you have left for the amount of time he has, even for $130 billion. So you know in the back of your mind that your time has incalculable value. And yet, on a daily basis, you take actions to spit on it. You take actions that disregard that value. You sit and concern yourself with other people, scrolling on social media, comparing yourself to other people's lives. You sit and are lazy and don't prioritize the things that really matter to you. You're not doing the things to take advantage of that time. And so that's why I say awareness is where time wealth really starts. Because once you are aware, you start taking actions on that awareness.
Yeah, that's actually our first stage at redefining wealth as well, is awakening. We call it the awakening phase. And we say to awaken, you have to arise from slumber and really start to get radically honest about what you're doing that does not align with your vision and what you say you actually desire. And there's so much, again, congruency in what we talk about. But what I loved about, as you were going into that section of the book too, you had for your birthday, I believe it was, asked for older people, 80s, 90s, to give you like the life lessons. And there was an interesting discovery between all those people who gave you amazing lessons, but none of them talked about money when it was all said and done. What were the types of things they talked about really cherishing?
They talked about everything other than money. This is like 40 separate pieces of life advice. Only one of them even mentioned money, and the mention was to never let money steal your peace of mind. So it was actually a negative on money. The peace of mind one is funny. Like we always have this saying of like, don't leave money on the table, but no one ever worries about leaving their peace of mind on the table. No one ever worries about leaving their mental health on the table, their relationships on the table. But for some reason, we say like, you can't leave money on the table. We need to reframe that in your own mind. But look, they all focused around four things, really: time, people, purpose, and health. Those were the four things that came up over and over again. It was pieces of wisdom like treat your body like a house you're going to have to live in for the next 70 years, focusing on your health. You know, it was never fear sadness as it tends to sit right next to love, which I absolutely love. That's my grandmother, incredible storyteller, wrestling with the fact that the most beautiful things in life dance on this razor's edge with the most challenging. And unless you're willing to open yourself up to the pain of the bad, you're not going to experience the joy of the good.
So good. So good. Like, I'm so grateful for this book and all the wisdom that you got to share in it. There was an exercise too that you talked about where you say, close your eyes and imagine your ideal day at 80 years old, or 100 in the case of the 90-year-old. Vividly imagine it. What are you doing? Who are you with? Where are you? How do you feel? This exercise forces you to begin with the ideal future in mind. And we talk about leading with the ignited, aligned vision. So as you're taking us through each one of these pillars of wealth, tell us too how that connects to the vision. Like, what types of things should we be doing now if this ideal day or this vision of us 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now is to come to fruition? How do we connect that with each one of these pillars, starting with the time wealth?
The most important thing here, and the reason that exercise is so powerful, is that it forces you to have a clear awareness of whether your actions in the present are leading you to the future that you want. So when you envision that ideal future in mind, I am guessing what you're going to envision is probably somewhat similar to what I envision, which is I'm like sitting on a deck with my wife at my side, my kids hanging out with us, having a conversation, grandkids playing in the yard, friends coming over for dinner, and I feel healthy in body and mind. I feel good. And that really, like if you go and ask 100 people, some version of that scenario is what most people envision as their ideal day at 80. They're surrounded by people they love, whether it's your kids or not. It's beside the point. It's basically you're surrounded by love. You feel good. You're healthy of mind and body. You sort of feel a purpose and a meaning to what you're doing, and you're free. You feel a freedom of being able to sit there and you have that time. But then when you go ask people what they're doing to create that future, what are the actions you're taking in the present? Normally, it's like they're chasing money. And while money may be a enabler in some instances to that future, like it may help with having the porch that you can sit on, it's not really directly related to like relationships that are a core part, to the health that's a core part, to the clarity of mind that's a core part, to the purpose that's a core part. It's really not conducive to creating that future that you're looking to create. And so the call to action with all of those type of exercises, with mental time travel in general, which is what that is to really shine a light on whether or not you are living in a way that will create that future that you want. Because if you really want that future, you have to take actions in the present. The way I often say this is life is filled with laters. You say, I'll spend more time with my friends, my partner, my kids later. I'll work on my health later. I'll find my purpose later. I'll do X later. And the sad thing is that later just becomes another word for never. Because those things are not going to exist in the same way later. Your kids are not going to be 5 years old later. Your partner is not going to be there for you later if you're not there for them now. Your friends won't be there. Your health won't be there for you later if you don't invest in it now. So either you build those things into your life now, you invest in them now, or you're just going to regret it later. Because as my grandfather used to say to me, later you'll be dead.
Wow. So we start with time wealth, and then we move to social wealth, which you talk a lot about, and just the way that you value relationships. Tell us more about social wealth.
Social wealth is exactly that. It's your depth and breadth of connection to the people around you. Depth with the few close relationships, the people you can call in the middle of the night, your front row people, as I call them, the people who are truly there for you through life's highs and life's lows. Breadth with the people who are more loose connections, the broader friend networks, the communities, your spiritual networks, church groups, all of those people that go beyond just that core that you have. And this is a really important one, and it's one that is so easily overlooked because we have scientific evidence that the people you surround yourself with determine your outcomes in life. The Pygmalion effect is this amazing scientific phenomenon that finds that the expectations that people have for you, you either rise or fall to them. We literally rise to the level of expectations the people around us have for us. So if you surround yourself with people who are encouraging you to think bigger, who believe in you, who support you, you will rise to the level of those expectations. And similarly, if you have people that are putting you down, who are laughing at you, who are telling you to be realistic, you will fall to the level of those expectations. So what better reason do you need for taking seriously, for choosing wisely around the people that you allow into your energy and your space?
I love that you have an emphasis too. When you talk about the front row people, we have a term that we use here often just about radical honesty. It's about being able to have such deep connection with the people who are closest to you that you can be honest about your needs, your wants, and desires. And I hear that even in the way that you spoke about the conversation that you had with your wife after talking to your friend and having the realization that you would only see your parents 15 more times. The ability to leave your job, sell your house, and move across country says that there was some level, though, of intimacy and connectedness that you guys had to have had and some deep trust, even before you actually went all the way into this experiment. So it feels like that was already a part of your front row people vibe.
Yeah, my wife is my number one front row person. I've been with my wife since she was 14 years old. I was 15.
Really?
We met in high school. Yeah. High school sweethearts. Yeah, we dated the entire way through. there's a strength that is hard to describe that gets created when you have had to navigate life's seasons together and all of the change and growth and disruption and long distance, all of the things that I feel we've had to navigate. There's a strength and an understanding there that is almost like I think what twins or siblings have. The way that she knew me and believed in me before I believed in myself, I have a hard time even describing. I mean, when we went to make that change, I was leaving like a good job. And a job, frankly, like I had great colleagues. It was a good firm. There was a lot of reason why she could have just said, like, that's crazy. We should stay. We should just keep doing this. But she believed in me before I believed in myself. I mean, she said, like, oh, can't you just go do this thing, the writing stuff you're doing? Can't you just do that? You love it. I see your energy for it. And I didn't believe in myself. But sometimes all you need in life is one person to tap you on the shoulder, to like tap you into the game and say that they believe in you. It almost gives you the permission to believe in yourself. That person that knows you has sort of given you their strength in that moment. And I am forever grateful to her for that. We would not be where we are without that.
Hey, Purpose Chaser, if you're ready to level up in 2025, you need to download the Redefining Wealth app. This is where Purpose Chasers from all over the world come together for early access to exclusive trainings, pop-up lives, powerful resources, and a like-hearted, supportive community. Get everything you need to align with your vision, stay accountable, and create lasting impact right at your fingertips. I'm so excited about everything the team and I are planning for 2025. Bi-monthly book clubs. We're talking about empowerment panels created by Purpose Chasers for Purpose Chasers with Purpose Chasers. It's going to be incredible. And if you have genius that you want to be able to share and you've been a part of this community for a while, you need to come in closer. There are people that need you. We want this to be about you, the Purpose Chasers, not me, Patrice Washington. I am simply here to hold space and to curate a safe, aligned, brave community. And that's what we're doing. So download the Redefining Wealth app today on your iOS or Android device. You can also go to redefiningwealth.app, and I can't wait to see you there. You also talk about what the move did in terms of social wealth, like now being in driving distance from your parents.
Yeah.
That's such a blessing.
Yeah. No job will ever pay you enough to be far from people you love.
Oh, Sahil, wait a minute. You have to say that again. You have to say that again.
Yeah. The single greatest decision we ever made was to move across the country to be within driving distance of our parents. And no job will ever pay you enough to be far from people you love. No job, no compensation, no amount of money will ever be worth it to be far from people you care about, because that is the ultimate source of your joy in life. Those moments that you have with those people, and you are far more in control of it than you think. You are a perfect example. What you just said earlier, you don't have to move across the country. You don't have to do what I did. All you have to do is have enough awareness to decide that you're going to say, instead of 1 visit a year, 2 visits a year, I'm going to make it 4. Because now you've doubled the amount of moments that you've created with this person. You've literally created time. Like for us, that number, the 15 times before they die, is now in the hundreds. I see my parents several times a month. And so that is a literal example of creating time in your life through your actions. It tells you you have much more control over these things than you think. You are not just destined. You are not just a passenger on this like life of fate. You can take an action and create a desired outcome. But you have to take the action. You have to do something. You have to start walking. And I say that over and over again. It's so important to internalize that the answer is always found in the action. The things you want in life are hidden in the actions you avoid. So by going and taking those actions, you are actually unlocking those things that you really want.
Mm-hmm. Man, it's always in the stuff you avoid. We always say clarity comes in the doing as well. Like, so the more that we are doing and moving in that direction, it's like you get to ask yourself better questions along the way. Like, okay, so I took this step. Now, how could I double this? How could I triple this? How could I see my mom more? For me, as soon as I thought of it, it was like, oh, every trip that I have to the West Coast to speak, I'm just going to add a couple days and go to LA. And instantly unlocked more opportunities this year. I'll probably see her more than 4 times this year, but that's the minimum. And I feel like once, like you said, once we get aware and we awaken and we get clear on what we really want, which for me is to see my mom as much as I can while I have her, all of a sudden it made me ask better questions.
Are you familiar with Rumi, the ancient poet?
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite quotes is Rumi. It's, as you start to walk on the way appears. As you start to walk on the way appears. You cannot find the answers for your life standing where you are. You have to take action and the answers will reveal themselves. You have to walk with the questions. You have to take action and move with those questions, and those answers will reveal themselves to you in time.
Yeah. And it seems like the answers become easier almost. Like some of the things that we complicate, overthink, overwhelm ourselves and all, it's just because we're asking the wrong questions. Like if we start moving and ask better questions, we always get better answers.
Yeah, you already have these answers within you. You already have the answers within you. Tell yourself that. You already have the answers within you. You just haven't asked the right questions yet. As you ask the right questions, as you sit with those questions, the answers that you already have will reveal themselves. But you have to take time to sit with the questions. You have to ask yourself and really wrestle with them. And sometimes they are painful questions. It's not to say that it's so easy to ask the questions. Oh, I just need to ask this. You need to sit with it. You need to journal on it. You need to think on it. You need to pray on it if you believe in prayer. All of those things are how you reveal the answers that are already within you.
Who's on your personal board of advisors? You talk about that in the book, and that is a big piece of your social wealth as well. Not just the family relationships, but also professionally. So who sits on your board of advisors?
Yeah. And this idea is my take on mentorship. Historically, there's this idea of like you have one mentor that is your end all be all of people that help you and guide you on your journey. And I think that's a flawed concept. It's very hard to imagine that a single person has all of the answers that you need for your life, that they can guide you in the exact same way, that they have a map that will match your terrain. And so the personal board of advisors is a group of people. It's multiple people that you can turn to for different things in different situations in your life. I have a lot of people on my board of advisors that I turn to for different things. My wife is certainly on that. I have several friends who are domain experts in sort of different areas, from like media to more business building, entrepreneurship. I have a few very senior people, a few of whom are on the back of the book and have read this, which is amazing. People who gave me the permission and the guidance to go do the crazy thing along that journey. And I am very fortunate. I'm very grateful for all of those people for gifting me with their time and attention on this path.
There's a lot of people who say, though, Sahil, that they don't know people who want to support them or who would answer their call or respond to their email. How have you been able to build up social capital to have these people that you can go to in different domains?
I think a big part of it is being that person to someone else. I have always believed that the things that you put out into the world, you will receive back from the world. Call that karma, call that whatever you want. But I have always believed that if you are giving generously and if you are being that out into the world, that you will receive it in return. Create value and you will receive value in return. All of my great relationships that I've built have been because I was putting myself out into the world, because I was creating motion. I was trying to create value for other people that I interacted with. And that doesn't mean work value. That might be trying to be thoughtful, trying to be there for them when they need it, trying to put myself out genuinely and be a friend to other people. And I have always felt like those people have returned that in spades. And if not them, then someone else in that ecosystem has, and it sort of evens out in the long run. And then I think, professionally, the best advice I always give to people is it's very hard to get lucky sitting on the couch at home. It's much easier to get lucky if you are putting yourself out into the world. If you're moving, you're creating collisions, you're creating motion. That's when you get lucky. That's when you happen to be at the gym early in the morning and you meet that professional connection that could be the person you start a business with or becomes a mentor, becomes an advisor. That's when you go to the networking event and you meet the person who sparks an idea in you that you take and run with. It's through motion that a lot of this luck ends up getting created.
Yeah. One of my mentors who encouraged me to write my first book, I met at the hair salon. So there that goes, right? Just walked right in and and he changed my life in one conversation. And you're right. And I was ready for that moment.
On the back of my book, the first quote is from Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, who is a mentor. And I met Tim because I was going to the gym every single morning at 4:45 in the morning when I first started my first job. And he was one of about 5 other people who were doing that. The CEO of one of the biggest companies in the world, going to the gym at 4:45 in the morning every single day. And he became a friend and a mentor. And he was one of the people that gave me the courage to go off on this different path, who thought it was great that I was going to go do this because he could see my energy for it. That is pure luck, right, on the surface. But it was luck that was engineered by the fact that I was waking up at 4 in the morning every single day to go to the gym.
You know, we started a consistency challenge in the Redefining Wealth community, December 15th. We're like not waiting for January 1st. We said, what could I do every day to show up for the vision that I have? It doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes, 50 minutes, 5 hours. It's something that I'm willing to do every single day, believing that if I show up for myself, for my goals, for my vision every single day, there's no way that a miracle can't happen, that a chance meeting like you are sharing couldn't happen. I know there's this part in the book where you talk about something can change in a day, in a week, but you're like doing something, showing up every day. Your life could be barely recognizable a year later if you just commit to one thing.
You are 1 year of focus away from people calling you lucky. 1 year of focus, 1 year of the right intentions, 1 year of asking the right questions, 1 year of leaning in, going all in on yourself. In a year, there are going to be people that sit here and call you lucky. And there's no greater compliment than random people who don't know you saying you got lucky, because that just means that they do not see the work that you put in the dark.
Yeah. I always say that I want my countenance to be a reflection of my consistency. You may not know what it is, but you're like, she must do something. Like I want the piece that I exude for you to believe, okay, there's something she's consistently doing to show up this way. You don't just show up this way. There has to be something in the background that she's committed to. Let's get to mental wealth. What does that mean for you?
Mental wealth is all about your purpose, your growth, and your ability to create space in your life, the ability to wrestle with those bigger unanswerable questions. Mental wealth is really about your hero's journey. It's about the path that you are on in life, the ability to create a kind of distinct and unique journey, a journey unique to you. That is really fundamentally what mental wealth is all about. Creating a life of mental wealth is all about.
I love it. It's interesting because you were just talking about you're 1 year away. If you get consistent and commit to something, a clear focus, you're 1 year away from people thinking you're lucky. How do you believe being mentally strong prepares you for people misunderstanding you or not being aligned even with what you desire to do? Your desire to quit your good job and move across country because of this revelation and awakening probably sounded crazy to people. How did being mentally well sustain you during that season?
Ooh, so much. Look, periods of loneliness are a tax on personal transformation. They are the cost of entry for the transformation that you want to go through, for the new life that you want to build. Because by definition, as you are transforming, as you are changing, as you are growing, you are going to be different from the environment that you previously existed in. So the people that you previously knew, that you previously maybe got along with, are no longer going to be a fit for the things that you are doing. And some of those people are going to laugh at you. They're going to tell you to be realistic. They're going to put you down. They're going to make fun of your ambitions. And you are going to be leaving. It's almost going to be as if you don't speak the same language as those people you used to know. And yet, you have not come to the point where you have attracted your new people through your actions and through the things that you've done. And so you have this long season of loneliness that is the cost of entry for your transformation in life. And embracing that as the cost of entry, that is where you get the mental clarity to actually go through it. It's embracing that as a necessary part of your journey from where you were to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm. So good. I often say that sometimes we're praying for things we literally don't have the mental capacity to sustain. Like we think that we're ready for all the things, but unless you really go through, I like a lot of your mental wealth hacks from the book. Unless you really go through and get clear on where you stand with some of these things, if we got some of what we desired or prayed for sooner without the mental fortitude, we wouldn't be able to sustain it. If anything, we probably sabotage it.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. The climb is what prepares you for the summit. The climb is actually necessary because it prepares you mentally and physically for being at the summit. If you got dropped at the top of Mount Everest by a helicopter or by a plane, you would immediately pass out because you weren't acclimatized to the altitude. And so the climb actually prepares you. It makes you ready for actually standing at the top. It's the reason lottery winners go bankrupt so often. They did not have the climb that prepared them mentally and physically for having that extraordinary wealth that was the summit. And so it's a reminder as you are on that climb that you need to actually embrace that struggle because the struggle is necessary. It actually is a part of preparing you. It's building that fortitude and that resiliency within you. It's a necessary part. It's not something to be avoided.
Right.
Hey, Purpose Chaser. Now, you know I'm all about staying aligned with my Fit Pillar, but as a business entrepreneur and speaker, always on the go, staying consistent with my workouts used to be a struggle. That's why I love the Future app. It's a game changer for anyone with a hectic schedule who still wants to prioritize their fitness. With Future, I get a personal trainer. Shout out to my amazing coach, Sydney, who creates workouts tailored specifically to me. So whether I'm at my home gym, in a hotel, or traveling, I can fit in a quick session or a full workout that fits my schedule. And the best part, Sydney keeps me accountable by checking in, adjusting my plan, and celebrating my progress. If you are someone who needs flexibility but doesn't want to compromise on results, Future is for you. Plus, they've got everything from strength training to cardio and flexibility, all designed to help you crush your Fit Pillar goals. If you're ready to level up your workouts, head to patricewashington.com/future to get started. That's patricewashington.com/future, and let's stay fit together, no matter where life takes us.
And speaking of climbing summits, let's get into physical wealth. We actually start with the Fit Pillar here at Redefining Wealth. We say that if you have a vision, it is your duty and responsibility to protect the one and only vessel that you get to execute the vision. For you, what does physical wealth mean?
It's your health and vitality. And it's exactly as you said. Physical wealth is a catalyst for every single other thing in your life because physical wealth and the pursuit of physical wealth, the pursuit of building your body, reminds you that you are in control, that you have the power to take an action and create an outcome. If you wake up at 5 a.m. and work out for 30 straight days, I guarantee you at the end of that 30-day window, you will identify as a winner. And that has ripple effects into every other area of your life. Because you cannot do that hard thing without being a winner. And when you start to identify as a winner, you will start to engage with the entire world differently. You'll engage with your work, with your relationships, with everything that you do. You will engage in a better manner. And so that is why I believe this is so important, is because it has ripple effects into all of these other areas of your life.
What are the three parts that you talk about? It's movement, nutrition, but a big one that most people leave out is the recovery. What have you learned about recovery in this whole process?
Yeah, I really think of movement, nutrition, and recovery as being the three pillars of physical wealth. if you think of like level one on those pillars, I like to think of physical wealth as being like a video game. You are bombarded by information on social media about people playing on level 100 of this game. And the unfortunate reality is that it's very intimidating. And you get convinced that if you can't take 2 hours to do the workout, or if you can't have the like perfect diet, or if you can't have the red light therapy, cold plunge, sauna, infusion therapy, that you are not going to be able to perform on these metrics. The reality is it couldn't be further from the truth. If you can do level one, you will get ahead of 80% of people. You will be so far ahead of the game by just doing the boring basics. And the boring basics, movement, just move your body for 30 minutes a day. I don't care whether it's running, walking, dancing, jogging, swimming, biking, rowing, whatever you like to do. Move your body for 30 minutes a day. Nutrition, eat whole unprocessed foods at 80% of your meals. That's about 17 out of 21 meals during the week. Recovery, just sleep for 7 hours a night. If you can do those three things, you will get 80% of the benefit, maybe even 90% of the benefit. From there, once you're executing those three consistently, you can graduate up to level 2. You can start thinking about more nuance to the way that you approach these things. You can start thinking about a more rigorous program. But until you execute level 1, you don't need to worry about level 100. You don't need to worry about all of the fancy things out there. And the great thing about level 1 is that it's basically free. Anyone can go and do those things today.
That is so good. And I'm sure you just let a lot of people sigh, to have a little sigh of relief, because you're right. It is so intimidating. You look at all the things and all the people doing their, I don't know. I don't even understand some of the workouts I see on social media these days. I look at some of these videos and I go, what are you actually training for? I'm just trying to be here healthy at 80. I'm not actually trying to do whatever it is you're training for. And people judge themselves against that and then do nothing. And I love what you're saying is just do level 1 and again, be consistent. Okay. So of course, before we get out of here, we have to hit financial wealth. And let me tell you another reason that I said, this is my brother from another mother. I've got to meet your mom because man,
you would love my mom.
I am sure. I love that you start in financial wealth with the big question. What is your definition of enough? Because I know just from coaching people in my own community that people are running themselves into the ground. They are burnt out chasing arbitrary numbers that don't actually mean anything to them. They're just chasing numbers that they think they should want and missing out on all these other parts of life and all of these other types of wealth that you talk about. And you tell the story about what is your definition of enough. It was trying to find it in the book, the story about two people being like at a dinner or something.
Yeah, at the party. Yeah, so Kurt Vonnegut, this famous American author, and one of his famous author friends, Joseph Heller, who's the author of Catch-22, which is a very famous satirical novel, they were at the home of this billionaire in the Hamptons for a party. And Vonnegut says to Heller, Joe, how does it feel that just yesterday, the owner of this home made more money than your book, Catch-22, made in its entire lifetime? And Heller replies and says, yes, but I've got something that he'll never have. And Vonnegut says, what's that? And Joseph Heller replies, the knowledge that I've got enough. And there's so much beauty in that. That idea of having enough, of the contentment, of the happiness, of the fulfillment that comes from that knowledge that you've got enough. That is what we're all seeking. It's not chasing more for no reason. It's finding your definition of enough and sticking to it and knowing when you are living in that version of your life, of knowing when you are living in that good old days that you've created for yourself. And so recognizing that, and the reason that question is so important, it's because you need to make your enough life a clear visual. You need to understand what that actually looks like for you as a way of life, not as a number. Because no one really knows what the numbers mean. You say like, oh, I want $1 million or I want $10 million. Well, I don't really know what that means. What I do know is the way of life that I want to create. Do I want one house? Do I want two houses? Do I want an SUV or do I want a sports car? Like, do I want to be able to take my family on 2 vacations a year or is one enough? identifying what that life actually looks like to you. And it doesn't have to be Spartan. Like, it doesn't have to be bare. It doesn't have to be frugal. It can be incredible and beautiful, but it needs to be clearly defined, because that is your metric. That is what you are actually trying to build towards. It is that enough life.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love the questions you ask. What does your enough life look like? Where do you live? What do you have? What are you and your loved ones doing? What are you focusing on? And how much financial cushion do you have? And I love how bold you are, even about writing here. I have no interest in private jets, yachts, mansions, supercars, fancy jewelry, and so on. Right. And if that is their enough life, wonderful. The most important thing is that we all get to define it for ourselves. That is what redefining wealth is, knowing what your vision dictates so that you can take those actions now to build that life.
Amen.
I love this book. I am only like 30% through it. We're reading it as a community together. And I was like, let me just slow down so I could read it alongside. The audience in February. I think this is going to be, just one of the best books ever in this area, in this genre. I really love anything that is about financial wellness and a holistic approach to wealth. And you do give great information in that financial wealth section, but I love that before we even get there, you're talking about what it looks like to be wealthy in our body, in our purpose, in our relationships, and have the freedom of time that we also desire. And I'm a fan for life. I am so excited about this book. And it is clear that you put so much love, attention, effort into the stories that you chose to tell, into everything about it. And I'm just so grateful that I had an opportunity to read it and to talk to you today. What do you hope people take away from this book?
I really hope that people pause and ask themselves what they truly want out of their own life, what their true north is. And then I want them to take one tiny action to start building towards that. Stop accepting the defaults, start rejecting the defaults, and start living life by your own design. If you do that, then I've done my job, and that would be a life well lived for me. And I similarly loved this conversation. I would also love to come and chat with your community if you're doing the book club, and maybe I can pop in and have a conversation with all of the whole group at the end of that.
Oh my gosh, they would absolutely love it. Yes, yes, yes. I will be in your DMs. You already know. Thank you so much, you guys. Listen, get your copy of The 5 Types of Wealth. We are reading this book together in the Redefining Wealth app community. I'm telling you, it will be a blessing to you. If there is any book that I wish I wrote, it would be The 5 Types of Wealth. It is so aligned with redefining wealth. And I just want you to live a life that feels fulfilling and purposeful. And of course, we want you to make and manage money well, but not to the detriment of all the other parts of your life. And the 6 pillars of wealth and the 5 types of wealth are so clearly aligned. You will be so blessed by reading this book. So let's do it together. Sahil, thank you so much for being here. And we will put all of his information in the show notes. Make sure that you sign up for the Curiosity Chronicle. It is one of only few newsletters that I actually subscribe to and open and read faithfully. And you will be blessed by that as well. So you guys, until next time, I want you to go live your life's purpose, find fulfillment, and of course, earn more without feeling like you have to chase money. We'll talk to you later.